Hello, hello, and welcome to the video. This is another speed paint of an illustration I did of a creature design. This one in particular being a mashup of 3 different animals, with the idea originating from when I was back in college, taking some illustration classes. Or all the illustration classes, because that was more or less my major. It was a class on animal anatomy where we went to the zoo multiple times a week to draw the animals and learn about animal anatomy, how to replicate it, and all the things, which it was a really great class. I really enjoyed it. My favorite part was definitely going to the Natural History Museum and being shown the, I guess, would you call it archives of taxidermied animals and animal skeletons? It was really cool, okay? The storage system back there, very cool. Also really interesting, getting the warning that, hey, if you smell almonds, that's because it's, bad. And you should leave because you need to get ventilation now. Because preservatives, it was fun. Did not smell any almonds. Did not get sick. Had good time. But also, that was when I first saw a dolphin skull. They are wild looking. Absolutely wild. Also, when I learned about convergent evolution, which I now know a lot more about, and it's really cool as well. If you don't know what that is, look it up. It's really cool. Anyway, it does actually have things to do with the illustration you're seeing here. Because the final project for that class was to create a piece depicting a creature design with, I believe it was at least 2 animals mashed together. It might have been 3. I ended up doing 3. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 3, but it was definitely at least 2. And the ones I chose were the maned wolf, because the zoo where we would go does actually have maned wolves there. And they are so cool, okay? They're leggy and they're these orange creatures that eat fruit and they're just so cool, okay? If you've never heard of them, you should look them up. They're really cool. A white-tailed deer, because deer are cool, and antlers. I really, really wanted antlers and hooves, and it just worked. The anatomy worked. It's what I went with. And a reticulated python, because if I'm a sucker for certain things, it's long necks, which this has, you'll see, long legs, which this kind of also has, and long tails, which this definitely has. And what has a longer tail than a snake? Okay, well, factually, a lot of things have a longer tail than a snake. Most snakes don't actually have that long of a tail. They just have a really long body. But this is not a real creature, so I can adjust it as I want. And in this case, it has a really long snake tail. Now, that final project didn't end up going super great for me. All the prep work into it, because we had to do things like skeleton studies, what the animal would do in life, that sort of thing. It was really fun. Those I really like the results of. I think I still have some of the early concept art for that, but I'm not going to show it in this video. However, the final piece for this project, that was a disappointment. That was a massive disappointment to me and everyone else, because I was in college, taking classes, and working at the same time. I did not have a lot of time on my hands. I had multiple other classes I needed to do. So the final project for this ended up being a small acrylic painting, which I wasn't very experienced in, that I did the night before. I stayed up all night to do it. I believe I got a maximum of 2 hours of sleep before I had to go to class, and I was just praying that it was dry by then. It was acrylic, of course it was dry, but still. And it wasn't good. It was not good. And I was very embarrassed by that fact. I have since painted over that horrible painting. It was not good. It was not good. And looking back, the original design was also a little bit on the clunky side with the feathers, since in the original design, I had the feathers draping all over the tail and back in a full peacock tail sort of way. It was way too much. It didn't make any sense. So when I decided to redesign it, which wasn't really how should I say? I was playing around in my sketchbook. I decided to redesign that. I liked the way the sketch turned out, so I decided to do a full illustration of it and record it because I thought it might turn out cool. And I was right. I do think it turns out cool. Is it the best thing ever? No, most things I do is not the best thing ever. However, this creature has sort of stuck in my mind regardless of its flawed history and cringe-inducing memories of that particular final project. Man, I liked that class so much. If there was a class I really wish I had turned in something amazing in, it would have been that one. But man, it didn't happen. It didn't happen, and I do regret that. Oh well, it is what it is. Back to the illustration. As you might have noticed, I'm doing a lot of layering in this piece because, well, okay, I don't usually do this much layering where each individual section is its own layer for coloring. However, this creature is going to have a lot of pattern on it, and I did not want to have to deal with that all being on the same layer and dealing with the issues. So separate layers that I can easily color change as I need to make it work, which was really helpful in the future. There were a couple things I should have done more layering on, but it's irrelevant. It was a lot of prep work to make the final part easier, I should say. Now, as far as what this creature is, aside from its origin story being a college project, I have since, of course, come up with something a little bit more interesting for this creature's backstory. In fact, she is a deity / demigod / god. I'm not very specific on it. Either way, she is an immortal being with powers that go beyond what makes sense for reality, but is not all-powerful. My headcanon is that she was born of at least one god, maybe multiple, and takes on a monstrous-like form in the way of a lot of classic children of gods do. I say that like I know that for sure. I've read some mythology where that happens, and I'm just taking it as an umbrella sort of fact at this point. Don't check me on that one, okay? My idea is that she sort of came into being when humans were a lot younger and found a territory that she protected, and humans happened to live there as well. They started to worship her, and she protected them in kind. But as humanity advanced and people from different parts of the world started to enter other areas with technology and religions that were not native to the area, she ended up facing a lot of threats that she simply was not powerful enough to stop. And the result is that today, her home is lost, and the people that once worshipped her are no longer there. And thus, her whole existence has been, in essence, forgotten. So now, she just sort of exists in the hidden wild places that remain. But those places grow ever smaller every day. That's about as far as I've gotten on the mythology of her. And she's not really a full character with a personality or anything like that. She's more of an idea, an aesthetic. Which, once again, going back to her being product of a college project, that's not super surprising. However, I have found recently that a lot of old ideas of mine kind of just keep ruminating, kicking around, resurfacing in slightly different ways. And I don't think that's a bad thing. There's a lot of things that I think the ideas are strong, but they require a lot more refinement that I like to think I've acquired over the years. Maybe that's me being a little delusional, wouldn't be surprised. But I like to think that over time I have improved in a lot of ways, including this character design. For instance, there's only a few feathers and an actual horse-like mane on this thing now, whereas before it was just a lot of fur and a lot of feathers everywhere, and it was way too cluttered. For instance, the antlers, where that ruff is and the ears are, there was also peacock head feathers up there. And while I like the idea, it is way too much going on visually. So I reduced them. I wanted to keep the feathers, so I decided to weave them into the mane along the neck and along the tail, in a little bit more of a loose, flowy sort of way. Now, as you can see, I am doing some lighting work here. I don't usually end up putting down an actual light point of reference, but for this one, I felt it would be kind of necessary to make sure I was doing it correctly, since I wanted to make sure these shadows were fairly hard and readable. I still screwed it up, and you can see it right there on screen. You see that middle tail part where there's a bunch of underscales that are illuminated? They shouldn't be. They should be dark because they are under the body. But did I catch that when I was doing the shading? No. Did I catch it later on and decide not to fix it? Yes. And if you've ever created something, I imagine you know exactly what it's like to see a flaw and decide it's just not worth fixing. That was the case here, and I'm fine with it. Probably. Anyway, we're drawing to the end of the video now. I hope you enjoyed this video, enjoyed the process, and didn't mind too much my voiceover. I hope you stick around to see other videos when they come out. If they come out, they should probably come out. Or take a look at the one I've already put out with a little demon dog dude. Thank you. Have a great day. Have fun. Be creative. Bye.